Okay, let us first go to PFL Bellator. The first event with this PFL Bellator merger / acquisition going down February 24th. This is it Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
I never know. Saturday. Very interesting. This is actually happening. This is crazy, really. It really is. We were commenting earlier in 2023 about how, PFL and Bellator, there were like four big promotions, UFC, Bellator, PFL in one. But these planets are colliding, and PFL acquired Bellator. And now PFL is going to use Bellator as like their, what did the guy call it? The CEO of PFL was like, Bellator is going to be their premium championship, Champions League or something like that. The one-off shows, he called it. The Super Fight Series.
Yeah,
So
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, and PFL is going to continue to be their league format, their season format. So here we go. PFL versus Bellator. That's the name of the event, I believe.
Champs. PFL versus Bellator. Champs.
Yes. And I love their little sub line is seize the throne.
Yes.
And it is being headlined by Renan Ferreira and Ryan Bader, the PFL heavyweight champ and the Bellator heavyweight champ, duking it up. Duking. What am I trying to say?
They're duking it.
They're duking it out. That's it. We're going to talk about a handful of these fights, gents. Any that you really want to spotlight before we jump into it?
Clarissa Shields is on this card, which
that's right.
I don't think we're getting into her.
Yeah.
This is an MMA fight for Clarissa Shields, for those of you who are wondering. Yeah. And she's going to be fighting a girl named Kelsey DeSantis.
Yeah, girl she's fighting is 1-2, it appears. So I think they're trying to get Shields back on the winning track in MMA after the last performance. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah. But yeah, that's the only undercard that I feel like is really worth highlighting necessarily. I guess before we hop into these previews, just as an overall, I want to give PFL management a lot of credit because outside of the title fights, which are what they are, they could have picked some matchups that favored the PFL and got their boys off looking good. And instead they looked at the Bellator roster for the rest of these fights and chose Vadim Nemkov, Yoel Romero, AJ McKee, and Aaron Pico. I mean, you can't pick scarier dudes than that. So props to them for being willing to put it on the line, and props to them for making a great card. Like, yes, they only have 3 title fights on here. They lost the Pitbull Pinedo fight, unfortunately. They couldn't make Pacheco Cyborg, which I know they had wanted to. And they even lost Magomed Karamov from one of the title fights we do have. He was supposed to be fighting Jason Jackson, obviously, and now we have Ray Cooper stepping in instead. But to find 4 other fights here of Cappelozza Nemkov, Santos Romero, Collard McKee, and Braga Pico, that is a hell of a quartet of fights. They really went all out and tried to put on a great card here. So I give them credit.
Yeah, man. Let's jump in with the first fight that we're going to discuss, that being Aaron Pico taking on Henry Corrales. How did he say his last name? Corrales?
Aaron Pico? Braga. He's fighting Gabriel Braga.
What am I looking at? What the fuck? Well, this is wrong.
What?
On Wikipedia has it wrong.
Dude, don't tell me Braga pulled out or some shit.
Unless Wikipedia knows something.
It's still Braga
know.
on Sherdog.
Yeah, it's still Braga where I'm
Braga
looking
on
to.
Sherdog, yep. Well, let's just cue this up as though it's going to be Braga then.
Yeah.
Let me just scan this real quick. Why would they have this other guy there?
Yeah, everywhere I'm looking still says Braga.
Okay. Aaron Pico. From the Bellator side of things, is 27 years old, still fighting out of Whittier, California, 12-4 as a pro with 10 finishes. 8 of those are knockouts, coming off back-to-back wins, most recently defeating Pedro Carvalho back in September. by TKO. He'll be taking on Gabriel Braga, the 25-year-old out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 12-1 as a pro with 5 knockouts to his name. Looking to get back in the win column after losing in the PFL finals against Jesus Pinedo back in November this year. Mark, start it off. Give us your take and your pick.
All right, Pico is minus 300 as the favorite, so pretty wide. And Gabriel Braga is plus 250. Braga will be 1 inch taller. He has a 1.5 inch reach on Aaron Pico. And he can be tricky for a lot of guys to deal with. We've seen that, but I don't think he's going to be tricky for Aaron Pico. We've seen Braga be taken down. Chris Wade had some success there. We've seen Braga struggle a bit when his opponents force the aggression in the striking and pressure him. Think about Pinedo in the last fight. Think about Pinedo even in the end of the first fight where Braga did beat him on the cards. And Aaron Pico is fully equipped to do both of those things. And on top of that, the one knock left on Aaron Pico has, because he's really begun to button up his whole MMA game. The one knock has been that he's still a little bit hittable, but Gabriel Braga is not really a huge knockout threat. So I just don't see him finding a way to win this fight. I think Pico's going to put on a great performance. I think he's finally at the point in his career where he's showing that the early hype was justified. I debated whether I want to go finisher decision, but I think I'm going to trust the durability we've seen from Braga, and I will take Pico to win a UD.
Omar?
Yeah, I've been enjoying the way that Pico has been growing and progressing in his career. He's just been getting better with each fight, looks stronger with each fight, looks more confident, more fluid. Combos are really getting together really nicely. So I probably won't be picking against Pico anytime soon. So unlike Mark, I do think that he finishes Braga here. I think it'll happen a little bit later on in the fight. I don't think it happens early. But I do think it'll probably be a little bit of a melting. So I'm going to go with round 3 TKO.
I'm going Pico with this one, boys. I think he is a budding superstar and really coming into his own as one of the great featherweights in the sport overall. Give me Pico by knockout round 2.
Nice.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay. Man, these fights are all great. Clay Collard versus AJ McKee. Here we go. Clay Collard representing the PFL side of things. The 30-year-old out of Price, Utah. 24-11 with 1 no contest. 14 wins by finish. 11 of those being knockouts. Most recently, losing in the final against OAM for the PFL 2023 season. AJ McKee, the mercenary, the 28-year-old, man, he's still so young, out of Long Beach, California. His record stands at a very impressive 21-1 with 13 finishes, 6 knockouts, and 7 submissions, riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Omar, start this one off. Give us your take and your pick of Clay Cassius Collard taking on AJ Mercenary McKee.
I think we've seen 2 things consistently from both guys. Clay Collard is a motherfucker. He is the dude that will not stop. He will go forward short of you putting him out. May not always be the most technical, the cleanest, maybe even the most visually appealing when it comes to, the way he strikes and the way he approaches the fight, but he's effective. And he's very good at implementing his game plan to get people to drown, to get people very uncomfortable in their positions, moving back and things of that nature. So I think he's definitely got skills, and he definitely has a great approach to the game with people that it works with, or against, I should say. AJ McKee is not that dude. AJ McKee is a very technical fighter. That's not going to be his first rodeo. I don't think that's how I think he's on a different level than what Clay Collard is on right now. So I'm going to go with AJ McKee here by decision.
Mark.
All right, McKee is minus 265. Clay is plus 215. 1 inch of height for Clay, but a half inch of reach for McKee. This is a really fun fight. One of the best that I think PFL Bellator could have made here. So I give them props for that. if we're being honest with ourselves, as much as we all loved the rise of AJ McKee and had these conversations of how he would do against the Volks and the Holloways and the Ortegas, et cetera, in the UFC, he's on a run of 4 fights here where he has not exactly been setting the world on fire. Yes, he's still 3-1 in them, and arguably 4-0 if you scored the Pitbull fight for him. But he's also arguably 1-3. Like, he certainly didn't look so incredible in the second Pitbull fight, and he did pick up an actual loss there. Then yes, he bounced back and he looked really good against Spike Carlisle, but then he had a really close fight with Roberto de Souza and a really close fight with Sidney Outlaw where he got held down for a ton of the fight. And I did score both for him. I'm not trying to hate on AJ here, but I'm just saying on the morning of August 1st, 2021, when we all woke up after having him watched him choke out Patricio Pitbull, I think all of our expectations were higher than what we've been getting from AJ McKee. So I think this is a really, really big fight for him, especially with a new organization. And I think he needs to look good in getting this win. And I will pick him. You know, Clay's going to be in his face. He's going to be ready for war. We know what Clay Collard brings. He's going to put hands on AJ and make him work. But AJ's never been afraid of a scrap. I mean, remember the Spike Carlisle fight I just referenced? That was craziness. And I'd like to think he can handle what Clay brings. I think we get a fight where AJ is able to kind of show off what he does best, and that's his range striking and his grappling. And part of me wants to say that he can find a sub here, but Clay has actually really worked his defensive grappling so much that I'm going to just say AJ wins a decision.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So AJ-UD?
Yes, sir.
Yes, everything you just said is all well said and very true. I'm still taking AJ McKee. I think his talent and his skills are going to shine here. And to your point, I think that the promotions will get their wish, and I think he is going to shine. I mean, the guy is coming into his prime, and he's going to be probably one of their biggest stars moving forward. So I'm with you. I'll go AJ McKee by a UD. Okay, moving on now to Santos versus Romero. It's a fight we didn't know we were going to need this year.
Yeah.
2 UFC vets, one transplanted to Bellator, the other to PFL. Now in this merger, they meet Thiago Santos, Marreta, the Hammer, fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 40 years old. His record as a professional violence doer is 22-11 with 1-0 contest, 15 knockouts out of those 22 wins. Looking to get back in the win column since October of 21 is the last time he won a fight and got his hand raised by decisioning Johnny Walker. Last time he got his hand raised before that was knocking out Jan Blachowicz in 2019, quite some time ago. The most recent fight was his no contest against Rob Wilkinson, which was overturned. Okay, so he'll be standing across from the always dangerous Yoel Romero, soldier of God, the 46-year-old ageless wonder who is fighting out of Miami, Florida. His pro record, 15-7, 13 of his 15 wins coming by way of knockout. Also looking to get back in the win column after losing to Vadim Nemkov in June of this past year. Mark, start us off. Give us your take, give us those odds, and give us your pick.
So the odds are real tight. Thiago Santos is the favorite. He's minus 120. Yoel is even money, plus 100. 2 inches of height and 2.5 inches of reach for Thiago Santos, which I actually thought was going to be more than that, just visually speaking in my brain. But I guess it's only about 2 inches in each. Two UFC vets here, as you said, both older. Santos is 40, Romero is 46, but that's only like 36 in Romero years, to be fair. I do think this fight is a coin flip simply because knowing Yoel, he probably won't wrestle. If he ever would, this would be the farthest thing from a coin flip because I think he would win easily, but he likely won't. And if he doesn't, Thiago Santos is going to have some real chances to land huge shots on the feet. So I guess him being the favorite and I get siding with him. And I'm going to need to get up and let my cat in this room because he's trying to knock down the door and he's having a fucking heart attack.
Oh, wow. We can't
So
hear
I'll do that in a second. But to me, despite both of them picking up some high-profile losses lately, I've just seen so much more quality that still exists in the game of Yoel Romero. Like prior to the Nemkov loss, he put on absolute exhibitions against Alex Polizzi and Melvin Manhoff and finished both of them. And he was still doing like freak athlete, freak combat calmness, Yoel Romero things. And I haven't seen Thiago Santos do Thiago Santos things in a pretty long time. Not to mention Yoel won round 5 against Vadim Nemkov. So again, my point is that the talent seems to still be there more so with Yoel. So I will go with him, and I'll take him to win a UD.
Omar, your take and your pick.
It's kind of similar, to be honest. Romero is, at this point, both of these guys, I don't have a lot of confidence in their approach anymore. I think both of them, their games have changed drastically to the point where what I used to pick them for when picking for them to win, they don't necessarily do as much, if at all, anymore. Thiago Santos doesn't fight nearly the same way that he used to fight when I thought he was the most successful. And neither does Romero for that matter. So I do think of the two, the lesser of that evil is Romero. So I will also be going Romero by decision.
This is a tough one, but I think Santos has been the more, seems like he has lost a step pretty much since John Jones screwed up his knee. So yeah, I'll go Romero by UD. This is a fun one to see these two aging stars, but they both, I think, are aging. So I'm not anticipating a finish with this one. I think it's going to be a big guy, hard spar. And there you go. Let me clear a few of these tabs. Okay, we're going. Cappelozza versus Nemkov. Here we go. We have Bruno Cappelozza. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
On the PFL side of things, taking on Bellator's champ Vadim Nemkov. So Cappelozza, the 34-year-old out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, 15-6-1 no contest, 14 out of his 15 pro wins coming by way of knockout. His last fight, April of 2023 against Matheus Scheffel, was overturned, now a no contest. And now he is looking to fight Vadim Nemkov this weekend, the 31-year-old out of Oblast, Russia, 16-2 with 1 knockout, 12 finishes, 9 of those being knockouts, has not lost a fight since April of 2016, gentlemen. Most recently, he defeated Yoel Romero in June of last year. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick.
I like me some Nemkov, man. I think he's a very good fighter. I think this frame too, I think allows him to move a little bit better than a lot of the other heavyweights that you'll see out there. And I think he's very talented when it comes to the ground game as well. So I have some confidence in Nemkov to get things done here against Cappelozza. So I'm also going to be doing a decision win for Vadim Nemkov.
Mark?
So he's a pretty big favorite despite the first time at heavyweight here. He is minus 500, him being Nemkov. And Cappelozza is plus 380. 2 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Cappelozza. So yeah, Nemkov officially vacates the Bellator light heavyweight title, which we'll see Corey Anderson and Carl Moore fight for in the not too distant future here. And he's moved up to heavyweight where he said he plans on staying. So it'll be interesting to see a guy who's been as dominant as he has going up against much bigger boys now. Thankfully for him, Cappelozza isn't a huge heavyweight, but he is absolutely a huge knockout threat. So Nemkov needs to fight a smart fight here. He needs to manage his range well and probably look to drag this one down. And that's honestly exactly what I think we see. You know, he's always been a smart fighter. He'll stick to a game plan. He'll play to his advantages. The ability to control range has always been one of his strongest suits. So, we'll see if that changes now that he's the smaller man, but I'm going to trust it. And I really do think he goes wrestling heavy in this fight too. So I'll take a workman like UD for Nemkov here.
We're unanimous on this unanimous decision. I too will go UD for Mr. Nemkov. Okay, really moving up here. Ray Cooper III taking on Jason Jackson. So PFL's Ray Brada Boy Cooper III, 31 years old, out of Hawaii, 25-9 with one draw. Most recently lost to Derek Brunson this past November in the PFL final night of the year. Taking on Bellator's Jason Jackson, the ass-kicking machine, 33 years old, out of Kingston, Jamaica, 17-4 with 8 finishes. Most recently, shocked a lot of us by knocking out Yaroslav Amazov back in November. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
I like Jason Jackson here. I've always liked Jason Jackson. I liked him more after his last performance against Yaroslav Amosov. I thought the domination in that fight was something that I didn't see coming, and since then I've been pretty high on Jason Jackson and against somebody like Ray Cooper, who I think is a little inconsistent. Fun to watch, but inconsistent. I think Jackson here can make a good statement. So I'm going to go Jason Jackson here. I think he stops him, and I think he does it in the second round. TKO.
Mark?
Another one where the Bellator fighter's a big favorite. Jackson is minus 410. Cooper is plus 320. 6 inches of height and 8.5 inches of reach for Jason Jackson here. So for the second fight in a row, Ray Cooper is going to be grossly outsized. Granted, this one is at least against a fellow welterweight in Jackson. But with that said, it's happening at a contract weight of 182 pounds because of the short notice. Of course, this one was supposed to be Jackson and Magomed Karamov doing the champ versus champ thing, which would have been amazing. But we get Cooper instead. And yeah, we've been through him before. He's a weird guy to read. 3 fights ago only, he was on top of the world. He had just knocked out Magomed Karamov. He was the PFL champ at the end of 2021. And then in 2022, he lost one of the most uninspired fights you've ever seen against Carlos Leal, where it looked like the Monstars took his powers. Then 2 months later, he came back and crushed Brett Cooper in typical Ray Cooper fashion. And then outside of a strong first couple minutes, he just got dominated by Derek Brunson. So, I mean, again, that one was at middleweight, so maybe we shouldn't take too much from that. But it's just been really up and down and hard to read. So, is he live? Yes, he did clip Derek Brunson at one point. Of course, he can also do the same to Jason Jackson. But we just watched Jason Jackson put on a masterclass against Yaroslav Amosov. And am I supposed to pick against that? Because I am not going to. So he should win this fight. He hasn't lost in ages if you want to look at it a certain way. His last loss was 2019, but it was a split. So if you scored that for him, we go back to 2017, which was an injury. And if you want to ignore that, we go back to 2013, which is over a decade ago. So Jason Jackson has been looking pretty damn good. He can wrestle for days. His striking has clearly leveled up, as we saw against Amosov. Add in the 8.5-inch reach advantage and his cardio, which is a big factor for him. And this is a 5-round fight, remember, because it's for a title. So he'll have to be careful, especially in round 1. But I don't see how you do anything here besides take Jason Jackson. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to say he finds a TKO via ground and pound in round 4.
Well said, and you're not wrong. I, too, will be rolling with Jason, the ass-kicking machine, Jackson. I agree. I think he'll find a finish in this fight against Ray Cooper. I'll say round 3, and we will go on to the next. Let's see. Yes, the co-main going down for all of the gold. Impa Kasanganay taking on Johnny Eblen. Kasanganay, the 30-year-old PFL fighter fighting out of North Carolina, USA, baby. 15-3 as a pro. He won PFL gold and money in November, obviously, defeating Joshua Silveira. And he'll be taking on Johnny Eblen, who puts his Bellator gold on the line this Saturday. Johnny Pressure Eblen, 32 years old, fighting out of Boca Raton, Florida, undefeated, 14-0, with 7 of those 14 wins being finishes, 6 of them knockouts. Most recently knocking out Fabian Edwards back in September. Mark, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I mean, most of these have been, but good fight here. Johnny Eblen, again, Bellator guy, pretty big favorite. Minus 400 for Johnny Eblen. Impa is plus 310. 2 inches of height for Johnny, 1 inch of reach for Impa. And I'm really glad this is the direction the PFL decided to go with Impa. Obviously, they could have looked at light heavyweight, but I think this was the fight to make. Eblen has been dying for another interesting challenger, and now he finds one. And Impa certainly is interesting. You know, he's on a hell of a run since leaving the UFC. He's won 6 in a row now with finishes in 4 of them, and he just made Josh Silveira look pretty bad in that PFL final. Problem for him is Johnny Eblen ain't Josh Silveira, and I think the feel-good story for Impa ends right here. I think the wrestling from Johnny is going to make all the difference in this fight, and I know, you know, you may say, well, Impa just stuffed every takedown against Silveira, but again, those takedowns do not even resemble what Johnny Eblen is bringing into this cage. And I think he is going to take Impa down more than once, grind him out, and eventually put him out. I'm not saying there may not be a hairy moment for Johnny in round 1 or round 2. You know, he had that against Fabian Edwards recently, too, where he got clipped at one point, and Impa can do that. But I think Johnny will be fine, lean on the wrestling. And from there, his top game is just frightening, and I think he's going to show that again. I'll go Johnny Eblen round 3 TKO.
I'll get mine out of the way, Omar. I totally agree. I think Eblen's going to maul him and make it look relatively easy. Eblen by a dominant UD. Omar, take it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, to be honest. I trust Eblen more when it comes to his ground game and his ability to take it down there, keep it down there. Impa Kasanganay is definitely not the guy to fuck around with, though. So Johnny Eblen's definitely got to be relatively perfect in there, not get caught with something crazy from that man. But I do think Eblen has the skills to get it done, so I'm going to go with Eblen by decision.
Okay, main event time. PFL versus Bellator. Ryan Bader versus Renan Ferreira, or Ferreira, or however the hell you say that name. In
Ferreira,
Brazilian
yeah.
Portuguese. Ferreira. Ryan Darth Bader, 40 years old, out of Tempe, Arizona, 31-7, with 13 knockouts to his name, riding a 3-fight win streak, defeating Valentin Moldavsky, Czech Congo, and Fedor Emelianenko back in February of 2023, knocking out Fedor, might I add. And now he's taking on a much younger man than Fedor in Renan Ferreira, 34 years old, out of Brazil, 12-3 with 3 no contests. Wow, 3 no contests. All of his wins coming by finish. One of them by a decision, 10 knockouts and 1 submission. Most recently winning all the money in PFL's finals in November by defeating Denis Golsov by TKO. Omar, start us off with this one. Last one for this guy, and until we jump into the UFC Fight Night card. Give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, you know I'm generally not one to stand for Bader, but heavyweight Bader isn't really bad, man. He's got a good combination of being a big guy with the movement, the mobility, and the hand speed of somebody who is smaller than a heavyweight. It works for him. On top of the fact that his grappling and his ability to take people down is pretty damn decent as well. So I think Bader's got the tools here to make this to win this. As long as he doesn't get caught in something stupid from a submission standpoint, I think Bader should have this one in the bag. And I'm going to go with Bader here. I would imagine at some point Ferreira is probably going to try to go for a leg lock because he is who he is, and I think he might end up paying for it. I think that's the way we're going. So I'm going to go with Ryan Bader here by TKO round 3.
I'm going to oppose you. I think Renan Ferreira gets it done over Bader. I think he knocks him out. I think this is going to be too big, too powerful for Bader to handle. I think Bader, at times, he can't get chin checked, and I think that's going to happen here. I'm gonna go round 1 knockout and new for Ferreira. Mark.
All right, so this one's tight. Bader is favored. He's minus 150. Ferreira is plus 125. 6 inches of height and 11 inches of reach for Renan Ferreira. I've picked 6 Bellator fighters through 6 fights to this point. Even if I do go Bader here and make it 7 for 7, I'm sure that doesn't actually happen. I figure somebody from PFL will upset the apple cart here. But I may go ahead and say it's this one. 6 inches of height and 11 inches of reach is insane. And we saw against Denis Goltsov, who's got 3 inches and maybe like 15 pounds on Ryan Bader, that Renan Ferreira was able to survive when taken down. And if he can do that against Bader and get himself multiple chances on the feet, I think he's going to find Bader's chin. I don't have much doubt about that. But the question is, can he do that? Because Ryan Bader may also grind him into dust, because Ryan Bader is a hell of a wrestler. And in my opinion, is the best wrestler Ferreira's faced thus far. Better than Goltsov, better than Ante D'Elia. And he's also undefeated at heavyweight, which people don't realize. He has 6 heavyweight fights. He's won 5, one's a no contest. All his knockouts happened down at 205 when he was, cutting the weight, and maybe his chin was not the same. His chin has seemed much improved up at heavyweight. But where I get hung up is I just don't know if Renan Ferreira's power cares about any of that. I'm not sure there's a chin out there that man can't crack. So I don't know. I'm torn. I think it's a true 2 outcome fight. Like, if you get it wrong, I think you're going to look bad, because I think whoever wins it is going to do it early and dominantly, just Ferreira standing or Bader on the ground. And I think it's a coin flip as to which one we get. But I'm going to go with Renan Ferreira. Ryan Bader's 40. PFL fighter's got to win one of these. I'll say it's this one. Renan Ferreira, round 1 knockout.